Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Today we're tackling a figure who needs no introduction. But trust me, there's a lot more to him than meets the eye.
Oh, I bet. You mean Santa Claus, right?
You got it. We're going to unpack the history and cultural impact of Santa Claus, all based on this Wikipedia article.
That's a lot of ground to cover.
It is, but it's a fascinating journey. We're going way beyond that jolly old elf image.
I'm intrigued already. Where do we even begin?
Let's start with the man who inspired it all, St. Nicholas. He was a real person, a 4th century Greek bishop.
A saint, huh? I guess that explains the Saint Nick nickname.
Exactly. He was known for his incredible generosity. But it wasn't just handing out presents.
Oh, what else did he do?
One of the most famous stories is how he secretly provided dowries for 3 impoverished sisters.
Wow, that's incredibly generous.
It was. This act saved them from a really difficult situation.
And that really cemented his reputation as a protector of children.
It did. But here's the thing. St. Nicholas wasn't always connected to Christmas. His feast day was actually celebrated on December 6th.
So how did he become associated with Christmas?
It's a long story, but over time, gift-giving shifted to Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
I see. So different traditions started to merge.
Exactly. And figures like Martin Luther and the Protestant Reformation played a role in that shift.
Makes sense. So was there a Santa figure in England too?
There was. They had Father Christmas. More about holiday cheer and feasting, though.
Ah, so like a spirit of good times.
Pretty much. And as England stopped observing St. Nicholas Day, guess what?
Father Christmas took over December 25th.
You got it. It's like pieces of a puzzle coming together from different places.
And visually, were there any early influences on the Santa we know today?
Absolutely. Think Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol.
Oh, I love that story.
Remember that memorable Ghost of Christmas present?
Large, jolly figure embodies the holiday spirit.
Exactly. Early hints of Santa right there.
I can see it. So how did Santa evolve in America?
Well, in the 19th century, his image really started coming into focus. Washington Irving.
The legend of Sleepy Hollow guy.
That's him. In his History of New York, he introduced a Santa Claus.
What was he like?
More of a humorous take on the city's Dutch heritage. Think thick-bellied Dutch sailor.
With a pipe, probably.
Probably. It was a playful caricature, but it added to the evolving picture.
So then comes the poem we all know, "'Twas the Night Before Christmas."
Yep. The 1823 poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, authorship is still debated.
Oh, really? I always thought it was Clement Clarke-Moore.
Many do, but some believe Henry Livingston Jr. might be the author.
Interesting. But either way, it cemented the modern Santa image, right?
It did. The jolly, plump Santa, the sleigh, the 8 reindeer.
Wait, weren't 2 of the reindeer originally called Dunder and Blixen?
You're right. Later changed to Donner and Blitzen.
It's amazing how one poem shaped this global icon.
It is. But the visual evolution continued with a guy named Thomas Nast.
I've heard that name. Was he an artist?
He was a cartoonist known for his illustrations in Harper's Weekly.
Ah, now I remember. He's the one who really gave us the North Pole and that iconic reindeer-drawn sleigh.
Exactly. He even dressed Santa in a flag-themed suit during the Civil War.
Shows you how even fictional figures are shaped by the times, huh?
They are. And speaking of shaping Santa, let's not forget L. Frank Baum.
The Wizard of Oz author.
The very same. He wrote The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus.
So he gave Santa a backstory.
He did. Even gave him a name, Necklaus.
I never knew that.
It's full of interesting details. 10 reindeer, but they couldn't fly.
Huh. Interesting. A little different from the flying reindeer we know today.
Right. And of course, we can't forget the Coca-Cola connection.
Yes. That's where their red suit came from, right?
Well, that's a common misconception. White Rock Beverages used a red and white Santa as early as 1915.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So Coca-Cola didn't invent it?
Nope. They just popularized it with their iconic ads in the 1930s.
That's wild. I never knew that.
You see, there's always something new to learn about Santa.
That's for sure. It's amazing how advertising has shaped his image.
It has. But there's more to Santa than just looks. He's also become associated with charity.
Oh, like the Salvation Army.
Exactly. That image of Santa ringing bells. Pure generosity.
It's heartwarming how a fictional figure can inspire real-world kindness.
It really is. And did you know there are actual Santa Claus schools?
No way. People actually go to school to be Santa.
They do. Like the Charles W. Howard Santa School.
Wow. They must take this tradition seriously.
They do. It's not just about the suit. It's about embodying the spirit.
So what about Santa's workshop? How is that portrayed today?
Think high-tech factory, elves on assembly lines.
Like a little elf corporation churning out toys.
Pretty much. It's a lighthearted take on modern consumerism.
I could see that.
But even as Santa's image has evolved, there have been discussions about his portrayal.
Like what?
Take his race, for example. He's mostly been depicted as white,
Right.
but there's a push for more diversity, with Santa as black or of other races.
I've seen those images and it makes sense. Representation matters.
It does. It's about reflecting the world we live in.
So Santa reflects broader societal conversations too.
Absolutely. He's a product of his time, but he also evolves with the times.
Fascinating. It's like he's a mirror to our own values and
He
anxieties.
really is. And we're just scratching the surface. Next time, we'll delve into some of the criticisms and controversies surrounding Santa Claus.
Can't wait. I'm hooked.
Okay, so we left off talking about how Santa's image has evolved over time.
Right, and how he's become this kind of cultural mirror reflecting all these different ideas.
Exactly. But it's not all sunshine and reindeer games. There are some serious criticisms and controversies surrounding Santa Claus.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's definitely a figure that sparks a lot of debate.
So let's dive into that. Where do we even begin?
Well, for some people, the whole Santa Claus thing is just too much. It takes away from the real meaning of Christmas.
You mean like from a religious perspective?
Exactly. Some Christian groups, especially Puritans and Calvinists, have historically been pretty vocal about that.
That makes sense. They see all the gift-giving and merrymaking as distracting from the spiritual side of the holiday.
Right. They feel like the focus should be on the birth of Christ, not on a jolly guy in a red suit.
I can see their point. But even for people who are okay with the celebrations, there are other criticisms of Santa Claus.
Oh, absolutely. Like, even if you love carols and Christmas trees, you might still have some issues with the whole Santa Claus thing.
Like what?
Well, one of the biggest criticisms is how tied up Santa is with consumerism.
Yeah, that's a valid point. It's like he's become the ultimate symbol of holiday shopping and spending.
Exactly. Critics argue that he basically encourages people to buy more and more stuff, which can be pretty problematic.
Especially when you think about the pressure it puts on families, especially those who might not be able to afford all the latest gadgets and toys.
Right. And the environmental impact of all that production and consumption.
Definitely something to think about. And this whole consumerism thing kind of leads into another big question about Santa Claus.
Oh, you mean the big one. Whether it's ethical to tell kids that Santa is real?
That's the one. It's a tough one, isn't it?
It really is. There are strong arguments on both sides.
On the one hand, I think back to my own childhood, and believing in Santa was so magical, it felt like anything was possible.
I get that. It's a powerful feeling, that sense of wonder and possibility. And for many families, it's a cherished tradition.
But then on the other hand, you have to wonder if it's okay to essentially lie to your kids about something so big.
Right. And some psychologists worry about the potential impact on a child's trust when they eventually figure out the truth.
Like, imagine feeling like your parents, the people you trust most in the world, have been deceiving you. That could be pretty tough to process.
It could be. And some argue that it's better to be honest from the start, even if it means giving up some of that holiday magic.
So where do you land on this? Should parents fess up about Santa or keep the illusion going?
You know, there's no easy answer. It really comes down to what each family feels is best. What are their values? What kind of relationship do they want to have with their kids?
I guess it's about finding that balance between preserving a sense of wonder and being truthful.
Exactly. And maybe that's the most interesting thing about Santa Claus. He's not just some jolly figure in a red suit. He forces us to think about these bigger questions.
About honesty, consumerism, the meaning of the holidays.
Right. He's a mirror reflecting our own values and anxieties.
Okay, so we've talked about the religious objections to Santa Claus and the concerns about consumerism, and of course that whole debate about whether it's right to tell kids he's real. But are there any other criticisms out there?
Well, there's another layer to this that we haven't touched on yet.
Oh, really? What's that?
It's the debate about Santa's origins. Some people believe he's actually connected to ancient figures, specifically Odin, the Norse god.
Wait a minute, Odin. Like the Norse god of war and wisdom. What does he have to do with Santa Claus?
It might sound strange, but there are some interesting parallels. Some historians and folklorists believe that many of our modern Christmas traditions, including aspects of Santa Claus, actually have roots in pre-Christian winter solstice celebrations.
So like ancient pagan rituals.
Exactly. And Odin was associated with this thing called the Wild Hunt, a mythical procession through the sky.
Okay, I'm starting to see where you're going with this.
And get this, Odin was also known as a gift giver. He was often depicted with a long white beard and riding an 8-legged horse named Sleipnir.
Wow, the resemblance is kind of uncanny. The long white beard, the journey through the sky. It's like a proto-Santa.
Right. And some scholars believe that as Christianity spread throughout Europe, elements of these pagan beliefs and celebrations were gradually absorbed into the Christian celebration of Christmas.
So it's like Santa Claus is this fascinating blend of different cultural and historical influences with layers of meaning built up over centuries.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes him so intriguing. He's a figure who has evolved and transformed over time, reflecting the changing values, beliefs, and anxieties of the societies that have embraced him.
It's amazing how something as seemingly simple as Santa Claus can lead us down these fascinating paths of history and cultural exploration.
Mm.
So we've explored the origins of Santa Claus and his image, how it's evolved over time. We even talked about some of the controversies surrounding him. It's pretty amazing how much depth there is to this figure, isn't it?
It really is. And I think that's what makes him so fascinating. Santa Claus is so much more than just a jolly old elf. He's like a cultural touchstone. He's a symbol that carries a lot of weight, a lot of meaning.
Right. And like we were talking about, those meanings can be different for different people.
Exactly.
Some might see him as, a symbol of just childhood innocence and wonder, while others might focus on the commercial aspects or even those ethical concerns.
Yeah.
But even with all the complexities and debates, there's something about Santa Claus that's just so enduring, isn't there?
That's true.
He just continues to capture people's imaginations year after year all over the world. Why is that?
I think part of it is that he's connected to something fundamental, something universal, something that resonates with people across cultures, across generations.
Like what?
Well, think about what he represents, like at his core. He embodies generosity, kindness, compassion. He brings joy to children, encourages giving and sharing, and reminds us of the importance of family and community.
Yeah.
These are values that, they hold significance for people regardless of their background, their beliefs.
Yeah, I see that. It's like tapping into a shared sense of humanity, a desire to connect with others and to spread joy, especially during a time of year that can be, pretty challenging for a lot of people.
Exactly. Santa Claus is like a reminder that even in a world that can often feel, divided, cynical even, there's still room for hope,
right,
for generosity, and a belief in the goodness of people.
Yeah, there's something really heartwarming about that. Like, even with all the criticisms and all the controversies, it's like, at his heart, Santa Claus represents something, positive, hopeful. And I think, we all want to believe in that.
Yeah.
This whole deep dive has really given me, like, a whole new perspective on Santa Claus.
Oh, yeah.
He's so much more complex than I ever realized. He reflects our history, our culture, our values, even our anxieties.
And that's why, as we're wrapping up, our exploration of Santa Claus, I want to leave you with this thought. What does Santa Claus ultimately mean to you? What feelings or ideas does he evoke? I think it's a question, worth pondering as we head into the holiday season.
Well said. This deep dive has been a fascinating journey exploring the many facets of this iconic figure. And as we all prepare for the holidays, I encourage you to think about what Santa Claus represents to you. What are the values and traditions that hold meaning for you? And how can you embody those values not just during the holidays, but, throughout the year? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive